Hello everyone and welcome. Today we are going to take a look at creating Excel export processes in Designer applications. An Excel export process can use either the underlying workbook used in your web application or a separate workbook. In both methods, the input fields will be pre-populated with the data from the user session and the results of the calculations will be shown in the export document. An Excel export process can be tied to an action button to trigger it. Let's see how this works on an example. Here we have an order entry application that captures order details and generates a quote. We can add an export process into this application in case our users want to keep a record or play with their results. The underlying workbook contains the calculation logic for things like the taxes and also has the product details. Because of this, we're going to be using a separate workbook which contains only certain fields. Make sure that your Excel spreadsheet contains name ranges for the fields you want to print data into before you start. To begin creating a new Excel export process, go to the Designer interface and select Excel Exports under the Events. The Excel Export page will display any Excel export processes created under your application. Click Add Excel Export button to start defining a new export process. On the next step, you can define the details of your Excel export. The name field is only a friendly name used for identifying this export process during application development, and this name will not be visible to the end users. The output name type property determines the naming convention for the exported Excel document. Selecting None will assign a set of random characters. Static will allow entering a static text into the output name static value field to give all output files the same name. By value of option will allow selecting a workbook name range from the output name range field. The outcome of this name range when the export process is triggered will be the file name. You can enable or disable the Excel export process by selecting either one of these options from the enabled field. If your workbook contains any Boolean name ranges, you will see a third option here called By Value Of. When you select By Value Of, you can then select a Boolean name range to dynamically enable or disable this process. If the outcome of the Boolean field is true, the Excel export will trigger. If it's false, it will not run. The Type property is where you can select what type of an Excel export you want to create. The current spreadsheet option will give the end users the underlying spreadsheet used in your web application. Even though this can save you time when creating the export process, we don't recommend using this option if your workbook contains any sensitive information. The export file will contain all data and formulas uploaded when creating this application. The Mapped option allows uploading a separate workbook to be used in the export process. By mapping the names to those used in your web application, the uploaded file can pre-populate the outcome of those fields in the export document. We will come back to the name range mapping in a moment. The return behavior property determines whether the export file is going to be made available for download. If you want the file to trigger a download action, select Return. If you select Do Not Return, the export file will be created in the temporary folder but will not be automatically downloaded. If you selected the Mapped type, you can upload your workbook to be used in the export process from the Excel Files section. When you're done with these settings, click Create Excel Export to create a new process. You can hover your mouse over the export process in the Excel export page and select Export Ranges to map the name ranges. On the Excel export ranges page, you will see a list of name ranges from your uploaded file. You can enable or disable them by changing the active property of each name range, assign them to those from your web application from the name range column, and make the system overwrite any existing formulas for those fields by enabling this option under the Overwrite Formula column. Finally, we can assign this Excel export process to an action button in the User Interface Designer. You will see the Excel export process under the Events section of any action button. Now we can do a preview and see the export file with the values.